Hurley C. Goodall Jr. was born May 23rd, 1927, and lived in Muncie, Indiana for his entire life. It's 93 years. After his father's death, his family received welfare as his brother also had polio. After high school, he served 2 years in the Army and then became the first black firefighter in Muncie's history. He doesn't stop there. He joins the Muncie Human Rights Commission. Then he becomes the first black member of the Muncie School Board. In 1978, he takes on a new role. He's the first black person elected from Delaware County, Indiana, to serve in the House of Representatives. And he holds that spot until he retires in 1992. Along the way, he's strong-arming the GOP for limiting black voters' rights, advocating for MLK Day, and waging a war on the KKK. It's a heck of a story. Goodall was born to Hurley Sr. and Doreen Burke in 1927. In 1930, his father dies, forcing the family on welfare. But his brother Frederick is also suffering from polio. Then Frederick dies in a car accident. His brother Robert dies during the Korean War. But through it all, he keeps pushing forward. The opening line in his obituary is, "Hurley C. Goodall never encountered a challenge or obstacle he didn't feel like he could overcome." He graduates high school in 1945 and joins the United States Army for 2 years. He returns to Muncie. In 1948, he gets married to his high school sweetheart, Fredine Wynn, who he would later claim to be the driving force behind his success. They have 2 children, Hurley III and Frederick. He works in the manufacturing of cars and also serves as secretary, eventually vice president of the United Auto Workers Local 532, and a delegate to Congress of Industrial Organizations. That is until April 1st, 1958. I have to wonder if some people thought it was a joke when Goodall and John Blair became the first black firefighters in Muncie. In 1966, he's appointed to the Human Rights Commission, and he serves for 3 years. February 13, 1970, Hurley announces he's running for school board. He spends $1,265 and gains a seat, taking office July 1st, 1971. 550 of his votes came from black people compared to just a total of 19 for his opponents. He's the first black person to serve on the board, but he'll also be the last until 1993. On the board, he eventually becomes president, and his work gains some recognition through Indiana. Enough recognition that he's made the Indiana representative for the National School Boards Association. While on the school board, he works various campaigns for Democratic politicians. In 1976, Senator Vance Harkey is running for re-election. This is after Harkey supported George Wallace's presidential campaign. If you're unaware, before he had a rebrand, George Wallace was one of the most racist politicians on this side of slavery. His campaign slogan could have been, "Blacks, I just don't like them." But he settled on segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. It's clear why Hurley didn't like him. Unfortunately, Harkey wins re-election. In 1978, he's tired of playing games and registers to run for the Indiana House of Representatives. In 1979, he leaves the school board and takes what he's learned from other campaigns for his own. The retiring representative, Leo Vosard, endorses Larry Dotson. Despite the district being 75% white, Hurley comes through and crushes the primary. The Republican Party doesn't run a candidate because they don't want more black voters coming out for other races. Hurley beats June Osterman in the general election, and he holds that seat until 1992 when he retires. His tenure is something that should be applauded. He is one of the founders of the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus. He got sales tax removed from residential utilities. He's one of the key players in the push for Martin Luther King Day. He repeatedly fought in favor of 3 things: unionization, women's rights, and the rights of black people. Something he believed in is that black people, to have success, there were 2 options: community, often the black church, or organized labor. It didn't work, but he repeatedly pushed for government workers to have the right to form their own union. In 1990, the first Indiana abortion ban is passed, but it's not without Goodall fighting the entire way. In the end, the vote is just 56-43, which is pretty narrow for Indiana. His most known legislation comes against the KKK. It would have made the cross burning a Class D felony, 4 years in jail, and a $10,000 fine. While his key legislation didn't always pass, he still went to war for what he believed in. He dominated his elections, and even when making laws didn't work, he did. He constantly pushed for ideas that are still considered progressive today, 32 years after he retired. He passed away on May 15, 2021, and I'd like to think he would be proud that he lived to see some of the things he fought so hard for come to pass. I think he would be happy to know millions of people in the state carry on his will and are fighting for the things that he believed in. It's a true legacy.